Well, hello, everybody. And this is Miriam O'Gara. I'm the host of Business Block. And today, I have with me a Women's Inspire Network member. Her name is Denise McGarry, and she is a money mindset coach. Denise, you're very welcome to the show.
Thank you, Miriam. I'm delighted to be here. It's fantastic.
What an amazing area of work, money mindset coaching. Tell us your story. How did this start?
So it's funny because I started, they say you teach what you need to learn. And I always had this kind of horror story with money. I was like petrified of money, but I guess, our core beliefs about money are set when we're very little. And I think we just kind of learn what's going on around us. So, yeah. And it wasn't that I grew up without money, but I just guessed that the messages I was getting around money were just that, money, you have to work hard for it, and it can be taken from you and all this kind of thing. So I carried that through, and I hit my own financial roadblocks, we'll say. It wasn't a very nice experience. So what I did was I realized I was kind of repeating these patterns over and over again, and I decided to do something about it. But like most things in life, we only decide to do something about it when we've hit rock bottom.
Yes.
So I went off and I became, funny enough, without intending to, a Heal Your Life teacher. And that was more about getting just the self-worth side of things and the self-belief and just believing in yourself again. And then I did some Bob Proctor work, and that sent me on the road to the money side of things. But what I started to realize, Miriam, was that as women, we really undervalue ourselves when it comes to money. And our money story is often connected very much to our self-worth. So if you can tweak and you can work on the self-worth, then you can work on the money stuff. But we tend to do it the other way around. And most people, I didn't know about money mindset, never heard of it. Most people don't know it's a thing. Men or women don't know it's a thing.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's become quite a buzz phrase at the moment, but still people don't necessarily understand, the length and the breadth of it. And as you were talking there, I couldn't help thinking about, my own relationship with money. And I know for a fact that there have been times in my life where I have seen a point where I could step forward on the issue of money, but deliberately stepped back because actually I didn't want to overstep with my husband. I still was deferring to him when it came to money. And I wouldn't mind, but he's not even the sort of person who would expect that I was doing this,
I think we do it unconsciously, I think you see, the money stuff is all about how we're kind of programmed, and nobody teaches us this stuff. Like if we learned this at school, it'd be amazing, but nobody tells us how to deal with money or what to think about money. So whatever the message is, we just run with that through our lives, and either it works out for us or it doesn't.
This is it exactly. And would you find yourself working in the main with women, or is it a gender mix that's pretty much 50-50?
For me, I work only with women. That's a choice though. And the reason I work with women only is because women have a very different mindset when it comes to money than men. And as I said, ours is very much connected to our self-worth. Like, so if I was to talk to a woman about money, I would ask her how she feels. When I talk to a man about money, I ask him what he thinks. And that's why I made the decision to work with women, because we sell ourselves short all the time.
Isn't that amazing? Now, because a lot more women, of course, over the last 60, 70 years are in the professional world. Still, that's a problem in your opinion, that they're still connecting it to their self-worth?
Absolutely. I mean, I read a statistic recently that 60% of women will have never, ever, or never asked for a pay rise. So the money mindset shows up. You don't just have to be an entrepreneur. It shows up everywhere. It's the same as women being paid less than men, but we're afraid to actually upset anybody. And,
Yes.
a lot of this stuff it's not that we're saying, I'm afraid to upset anybody. We're just not aware of it. It's just going on in the background. It's the program running in the background. And we just don't put ourselves forward. Yes, it's changing, but it's not changing enough, because 60% is way too high a statistic,
Yeah. Now, on the various workshops that I've heard you give, and some of which, and really, really good ones have been with the Women's Inspire Network, Samantha Kelly's Women's Inspire Network, and you are a member of it. Just as a matter of interest, how long have you been a member of Samantha Kelly's network?
I'd say probably about 6 months now.
So, and how have you found this by comparison with some of the networks you've been involved with before? Like, how does it add value for you?
It's well, I think it's an amazing group of women. Most of them, I think, are entrepreneurs. I know there is a mix, but it's supportive. Like, if you need advice or you need help, it's great to have 500 women to reach out to and ask,
Yes.
So yeah, no, it's a great community.
And you know what I've noticed as well? There's a quick response time as well. You don't have to wait very long before someone gets back to you. And even if they don't have the ability to provide you with a service or to help you themselves, they'll put you in contact with somebody else, which is really very, very handy.
Absolutely, yeah. No,
Now,
it's great.
one of the things that you mention, one of the many things that you mention in your talks is you're talking about the mind dump. Do you want to talk to us a little bit more about that? Because that really seems to tie into how you can sit down with yourself and get started on addressing your money mindset.
Yes. So when I was talking about the mind dump, basically, so what I was talking about for a lot of us women, how the money programming, the mindset, and the money blocks, we'll say, shows up is in our pricing. So be it that you're going to get a job or you're an entrepreneur, sitting down as a service-based entrepreneur to try and set your own pricing can be very difficult, because you're looking what everybody else is doing, but you also have to value yourself, and that's where we can run into trouble. So the mind dump, I suppose, for me was to sit down and get a piece of paper and really write down all of the benefits, all of the tips, everything that your clients or your boss gets from working with you. So if you're in a job, you could be saving your boss however many hours a week, all this kind of thing, which is obviously, time is money, and money is just money. We can always make more money, but we can't get the time back. So most bosses will value, their time more than anything. So if you're in a job and you need to get that piece of paper out and look at how much value you add to your boss, how much time you save him, and then you can start putting it together to go and ask for your raise.
That's a very good piece of advice, Denise.
Yeah.
Because people forget to do that. You really need to sit down, gather your thoughts, and actually jot down exactly what you are providing the boss with, because sometimes they need reminding,
Totally. And I think what happens is we forget to value ourselves, to value our expertise. And that's really important, to actually just grab a pen and a piece of paper or a computer, whatever works for you, and write that down. Because when you see it in black and white in front of you, it starts to shift your mindset straight away about your own value.
Yes. And would you recommend a situation where, for example, say you were a teacher in a school and you've been there for a while, and you need a salary increase, but you don't really know how to go about it? What would be the thing to do there? I mean, I know in the past what I had done is I'd say, as you know, I've opened a department, or I've brought in peripatetic teachers and the students are doing really well, and this is adding value to the other teachers and their subjects. It's building student confidence. We've been doing this now for almost a year. Would it be possible to sit down with you and have a discussion about the way forward and my own role in all of this. Is that the way to go? Then leave the email with them and see if they come back with the appointment? Or should we save that information to seeing the person, the boss, and then, you see, I always wondered, do I drop the information on into the conversation in front of them, or do I tip them off beforehand so they can have a think about it, through an email or something like that?
Yeah, well, I think they're probably always going to tell you that they're going to think about it, because everybody just buys for time,
Good point.
let me look at the numbers, let me ask the next, there's always somebody, well, not always, but oftentimes there's a next level up to check. But I think if you have done your homework about your own value and you've written that out, then it gives you the strength, and the self-belief, because all of this stuff just comes down to self-belief. People with a strong sense of self-worth will have no problem upping their prices. They will have no problem going in and asking for a raise because they have that self-belief. But sometimes we struggle to figure out what is how, I don't mean how much am I worth, but just that we put ourselves down because we say, it's only 20 minutes here, or I only stay back with the kids for an hour. I don't mind helping out, or I do it because I love it. I don't do it for the money.
Oh, that's a really bad one. Women can come out with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Yeah. And that's just a mindset, and that's a lack of poverty mindset, and that will not get you where you want to be.
As you say, this is the mindset bit now, because one of the things I've heard a lot, for example, and this I suppose would be mindset as well, is, oh, it's not a good time to approach him about this.
Yeah.
The boss or the father or the husband. In fact, I suppose women say it to their kids, that we're programming our children, don't go, leave it. Don't ask dad about that right now, That's the root, isn't it, in some respects, of the mindset?
Totally. And a lot of us may have heard stuff like that growing up, and we'll just repeat it. We don't even know we repeat it, but we are. And everybody has a money story. And money, the thing about money is money doesn't solve your money blocks and your money story. You need to get in and root around and find out what's going on with you, and then allow the money in. We're often blocking the money because of our money beliefs.
And you talk also about being on autopilot, that women are on autopilot a lot. So they're on autopilot then, is it, from the point of view of having these mindsets, which we tend to return to more often than men? In what other way do you find that we're on automatic pilot?
So oftentimes what happens is we're just winging it. We're hoping for the best. And it's not just women who do this, but it's more common in women. So the autopilot thing is just that we're hoping everything will work out. We don't track our money. We don't, often the business account or the personal account, they're all mixed together. We don't pay ourselves. So many entrepreneurs don't pay themselves. I spoke to a woman the other day. She was in business 5 years, and she only started paying herself on the 4th year. And she had staff, but she didn't see herself as staff. Yeah. She paid everybody else, looked after everybody else, and she just dipped into it when she needed money. She needed extra money. She dipped into the business. This is a huge thing as well. So that's all part of being on autopilot. You're literally just letting the money flow in and out without having any control over that money or minding that money at all.
I've just moved, if you can see there, I've just moved onto your website, and you've mentioned to me off air that the title of this website is about to change fairly soon.
That's actually my new one. That's my DeniseMcGarry.com.
Yeah, she's got it up.
Yay, she got it up. Thank you.
Very good. Very, very, very good. So beautiful. I love these photographs of you, Denise. They're superb. But it's a really easy site to navigate. I really, really like this. And you just say money doesn't need to be taboo or scary, but what the
It isn't, because money is just money and money is just energy. But what makes it scary is what we feel. This is where the mindset piece comes in. What makes it scary is what we believe about money and our, what we think of it and what we feel about money. That's what makes it scary. The money itself, as I said, money's just money. It's only energy. It's like the chair I'm sitting on and the computer I'm using here. That's all money is. It's like everything else, just energy. But because people get really triggered about money, because we need money, obviously, to survive. But that's why working on what you believe about money is so important, because you can look at your money story. As I said earlier, millionaires still have money blocks. Everyone has them. And you can be working on your money story, but we also, receiving blocks are a thing also. We need to let the money in. So working on the money beliefs and then working on your receiving blocks is really important.
Now, can you just explain a little bit about what you mean when you say receiving blocks?
So receiving blocks are like, so say we're working on our money beliefs and we're really working hard and we're working through everything about the money story. But then we still are in fear about, maybe you made mistakes with money in the past. So you have a lot of fear about money. So you're nearly repelling the money because you're focusing on maybe one mistake you made years ago, or a time you got into debt, or we say things like, I want to be debt free. Without getting into too much technical stuff, our subconscious mind is running the show when it comes to everything we do. So when you say things like debt, that's all it hears. That is one affirmation I would say. Don't ever say I want to be debt free, because all your mind hears is debt and creates more debt. You want to be financially free. There's so many affirmations that I say, and people think affirmations are woo. They're not. Affirmations are just affirmative statements. All you're doing is reprogramming, getting away from that lack mentality into that abundance mindset.
Yes, reprogramming, being careful to use the right language. Language and programming are very, very intertwined, aren't they?
Totally. And what happens with affirmations or affirmative statements, whatever way you want to call them, is they do the reprogramming, but that's what takes you off autopilot, because then you become aware of what you're looking for. Because so many entrepreneurs don't set goals, but they definitely do not set money goals in their business. And money goals are really important. You need to know how much money you want to make in your business, how many clients you want. And if you're in a job, you need to know how much money you want to make every year. And then you can start setting yourself to go up and ask your boss for the raise.
And take the two scenarios there for a moment. So you've got someone who comes to you and they're within an organization and they have a boss, and you've got the freelancer who really has an urgent need for money, because it's only them. Do you find your approach changes with each client, or are you pretty much having to deal with the same mindset issues?
Well, everyone has a different money story. So we all have our own beliefs and we all have our own money story. But the core stuff is really the same. It's that we have to believe we have to work hard for money. And all of this stuff, Miriam, comes back to believing that we're not good enough. If you can't ask your boss for a raise, or you can't increase your prices, then somewhere in you, there is a belief that you are not good enough on some level. And that's where the work is.
And also that's where your previous career comes back into play, doesn't it?
Yes, totally. That's where, so when I work on money, yes, we're working around your money story, but ultimately everything I do, we're working on that self-belief, because if you don't change that, the rest won't work. It'll be temporary.
Do you find that the turnaround happens very quickly?
It's a process. It definitely is a process, but it's funny when you start to do this work, people do, it has happened to me as well, that money kind of starts going from everywhere. You start to find money because you're just loosening up things straight away, because we're so like, constricted. Most of us are so constricted when it comes to money. And like a little tip I would say is when those days when you're, when the money's not there, so obviously you're focusing on the money not being there. And when you focus on the money not being there, then it's very hard to bring the money in because all you're focusing on is lack. They're the days that you need to go out and do a money drop, give away some money, walk along the street and drop a tenner,
Yeah,
and leave it out there.
that'll
Put it
really
into
shake things up in your own mind as well, won't it? About how you value money. That would really
totally, because
totally change things.
yeah, because if you're holding on to it, you're just
Now we know why Paul Pogba, the footballer, used to go around in his open top car throwing money out the window.
Yeah, exactly. And we
His
just
psychologist told him to do it. His sports psychologist, probably.
all of this stuff, if you've ever heard of Bob Proctor, it's all the neuroscience. It's all, it's not that it's woo anymore because it's all backed up by science nowadays.
It is
programming.
Absolutely. And the research now and those stories are so much more accessible to us on social media. It's just being able to tune into that. Isn't that right? You mentioned a couple of things in your webinars, the webinars that you did with Samantha Kelly as well. You talked about, and I loved the way she caught on to this. So she thought it was a great word, comparisonitis.
Yeah.
That we often are comparing ourselves so much to other people, other businesses.
We do. And I think especially if you're starting out, maybe you don't know what to charge, you're not sure what to do. But the problem with looking at what everybody else is doing, you can be comparing your year 1 to maybe their year 20. And there is no comparison. You can't set yourself up to be something that you're not. But then if you're comparing yourself to someone who's way ahead on their business plan or their business journey or whatever, you're going to set yourself up to fail straight away. By comparing ourselves to other people, we're just setting ourselves up for failure because we don't know where they are. And a lot of this social media stuff, it's not even real. So when you compare yourself to other people and stuff you see on social media, it's not.
Now, that's another reason why I sometimes feel a lot of people end up then procrastinating, which I know you talk about as well. We've all had that experience where you've done all the right things when it comes to pushing a product and getting the best advert out there. And you think you've done all the right things and nothing happens for a long time, nothing happens. And then what do? You pull back and you procrastinate. So how do we deal with procrastination? And what's the difference, do you feel, between procrastination and just being patient and waiting for the right time? Or is there a difference?
Well, procrastination is fear. Basically, it's underlying fear.
Very
so
good.
if you don't take action, you can't get it wrong. And it's just our mind telling ourselves these stories over and over again. The thing is, what we have to remember every day is that we have a choice. So you have a choice to stay where you are, or you have a choice to move forward. And procrastination is just not making that choice.
So whether it works out in the short term to seem like a positive move forward or a negative one, just move forward.
Well, they say action, taking imperfect action is better than staying where you are. So, and if you make a decision, Louise Hay always said, if you make a decision and it's wrong, just make another decision, but you're constantly moving forward in some direction. Otherwise, you're just staying stuck. And that's, procrastination, I think, kills more dreams than anything else does, because it is totally based on fear, and it is that thing of, sure, if I won't do it, you can't get it wrong then,
And the programs there, the 2 programs which were on our screen there that you run, they're steps programs, I presume.
They are, yeah.
They would run over a minimum length of time, or would it depend on the client's availability?
So the group program that's running at the moment is a 6-week program, and there will be another one of those in January.
So that starts on a certain date, does it? And
it does, yeah. We started actually last week. So if anybody wants to join, they can, everything is recorded. They can certainly still jump in, but there will be another one coming up. And then the one-to-one at the moment, there is a 90-day program, and we start really at the core beliefs. We go back to peeling back the onion and finding what's going on for you around your money, around your basic core beliefs in life, because that's where all of this comes from. And then it's just to get you moving forward, get you into action, so that you're not, most people are just stuck. Most of us are just stuck and we're spinning and we don't know. We want to get started. On Monday, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get started again. And then Monday comes, the fear kicks in and you wait. And then it's Tuesday. And as the week goes on, you find nothing happened this week. And it's just fear, because we don't want to change. Like, ultimately, it's that decision that you are not your mind. Your mind doesn't control you. You have to take back that control. You get to make the choices. But our minds don't want to change. It's easy where we are. Why would we change? Aren't we grand? Because change takes work.
And it's never too late.
Never, ever, ever, never too late. I was on a course last week, and there was a lady on it, and she was 79. And she was starting a new business. It's never too late. It doesn't matter. You see, what I love about money mindset work and all of this mindset work is that it doesn't matter what you believe today or what you've believed all of your life. You're never stuck. You actually get to change by just making one decision at a time. You get to change it.
Very, very interesting. And I loved the expression that you came up with at the conference, which was that, you just want to get to a place where women never have to ask for money again.
Yes, absolutely.
Ask someone else, for money again.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter who that person is, but it's, and I actually have it written on my page in front of me here, because for me, it's about helping women create that financial freedom so that they don't have to ask anyone for money, be that a friend, a bank, a husband, whatever. It's that they are financially independent.
My grandmother always used to say, always have your little bit of money, because it doesn't matter how small it is. Once you have that little bit of money and it's yours, you can manage it. She was absolutely right. And I used to think, well, what good is a little bit of money? You needed to be a certain size pot, surely, for it to be useful. But I know what she meant now, because I have found myself in that situation. I've been in situations where suddenly I actually had quite a lot of money, not by some other people's standards, but it ran into thousands and thousands. I had done well buying and selling houses at one stage. And I scared myself. I actually became unwell because I wasn't used to handling that amount of money. And the fear was, say if I make the next two steps incorrectly and I damage that pot, and all these fears were actually appearing because I was, for the first time, in a situation where I had more money than I'd ever had in my life. Okay. And this is years ago now. It's not the case anymore, I can tell you. But at the same time, I've been then later on in situations where I've had, like my grandmother said, that little bit of money that was regularly coming through. And I found I could do more with that than I could with the money that I had earlier. But at the same time, that's a limiting mentality too, isn't it? Because you have to allow yourself to have more.
Absolutely. And what happened there was, when the larger sum of money came in, you didn't feel safe. You felt safe with a smaller amount of money. And that's just a limiting belief, around the money, that you didn't feel safe to have a lot of money. So you started to panic and made yourself ill, worrying about the money. You hear the statistics about lottery winners. People win the lotto, and then 3 years later, I think it's 73%, they're either broke or worse than they were before they started. Yes. And it's because if you don't have your money mindset in check before you get the money, your programming is going to kick in anyway. And if you're you're going to be two things, a spender or a hoarder. So you're either going to spend that money and you won't be able to get rid of it quick enough. You'll give it away, you'll just blow it. You won't be happy till the money is gone. And this is unconscious. You don't know, you're not purposely doing this. Or you'll be a hoarder and you'll hold on to that money so tight that you won't be able to enjoy the money, because it's like nearly that fear of somebody could take it away from me.
Yes. Yes.
And
so do you feel that there's an element of frustration here when it comes to our educational system? I do remember I did social and scientific home economics. I remember I left school in 1982. And they had just introduced social and scientific home economics, and so they'd gone from home economics to making it slightly more scientific, and by adding in the science of nutrition, etc., into basically what was the other subject. But they did keep in the budgeting and how to budget. And although there were only a couple of chapters on that, I have to say, over the years, I did go back to that old book and have a look at it, just to give myself a kick in the pants. And that's at the most basic level, But we don't have these discussions about managing money. And it's strange, because we're in a time now where kids have mobile phones, where most of them have their own bank account from the time they're born. I mean, that I remember my 21-year-old nephew getting his own bank account with money, all of us godparents putting something in when he was born. Back in 2000, around that time. So, I mean, that's been going on in some form for a while, and yet we still don't seem to be educating those kids on how to manage their money very well.
Absolutely. And the money mindset could be a part of that, because you don't know, like, the thing about money mindset is, as I said, it's just whatever you've picked up by the people around you, and that's set before you're 7. So you're never going to question it. Why would you? You don't know it's there. So if that was part of the training around money and budgeting, and I mean, I don't teach people budgeting. I teach money tracking, which is really important, because so many people don't actually track their money or know where it goes. But
right, and that is a huge issue. What's the difference?
So budgeting is laying out your plan, as to you're going to allocate how you spend your money. But tracking your money for entrepreneurs is really important, because there's money coming in and there's business expenses going out. And often people have their personal and their business account mixed up, but they don't actually know where the money is going. At the end of the year, it's like, oh, well, I made this much, but I only have this much. And you probably don't even have that much. That's just on paper for the accountant. It's tracking that money, because money loves respect. And if you don't treat money with respect, you're not going to have any. It's just that simple, because you'll just get rid of it. You'll just toss it away. You won't care. And it's not, as I said, it's not that you're deciding not to care. It's just, that's what your beliefs are around money.
So what about for women who are, right, they've gone into their mid-50s, 60s, and they haven't managed their money very well. They know they've not been very good at this. Do you have any advice that, let's say, 2 pieces of key advice that you could give that type of woman? Maybe they do have someone in their home, perhaps, who's perhaps a little bit more controlling. I don't have that, just to say, but just, we've all met people who would love to be able to manage their own affairs a little bit better, but perhaps the people around them are making them afraid.
Yeah. I think that can be really difficult, because you can only control yourself and your own mind. If someone's controlling your money, that's a whole other thing. And then from money mindset, it's very difficult.
Okay.
If you have your own money, then you get to decide what to do with it. The main thing is that you are actually deciding what to do with it, and not just letting it happen. If you're in a situation of 2 people and someone else is controlling the money, that's different.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So really, well, the thought that occurs to me is that maybe this is where grandparents can be of some use. If you've got, grandchildren, and as you say, this mindset issue is fixed before the age of 7. Some
Yeah.
people even say that these things are fixed before the age of 5. So, I think this is another role that grandparents could have. They'll have learned their life lessons. Hopefully they will have tracked their money and learned their lessons with regard to their finances, both in business and personally. Perhaps they could be the people to step forward here. If you're grandparents and you're watching, folks, maybe you could give your own kids a handout here and actually help them by teaching your grandchildren a little bit about managing money, particularly if they're 4, 5, 6, coming up to those age groups. That could be very useful to just help dip
Yeah.
that in.
I think it's the way we talk about money is the issue, because a lot of parents and grandparents, they're only learning what they heard.
Yes.
And if you're coming from generations where there was very, very little money around, then naturally enough, that's going to be your message. That's going to be your programming, because that's what you knew. That's what you lived. We learn what we live, and that's what you heard from your parents and your grandparents. But as you get older, I suppose even if you didn't do money mindset work, you start to see things differently. And yeah, it's just being aware of what we say around kids when it comes to money. Even if you don't have it, try not to tell your kids you don't have it, and send that messaging to them about, the only way to get money is to work hard, because that's not actually true. But you don't want to be giving them that message, because then you're only passing it on to the next generation and the next generation. So by working on your money mindset, you're actually changing the generations to come, because, you're just breaking that cycle. Because
As you say that, I'm actually thinking to myself that in saying those things to our kids, and that cost money, making debt, the word debt, a big deal in your house, even if it is a serious problem, telling the children that debt is a dirty word, making them perceive that in some way. You're almost setting, you're casting the die for business failure in the future.
Yeah, it's all about the wording. It's just not to make money a bad thing, and to teach kids gratitude when it comes to money. It would be much better to teach kids to be grateful for their money than to teach them that money is bad and money is scarce and you have to work hard for money.
Yes,
because gratitude is much more important when it comes to everything in life. But when you're grateful for what you have, it sets your mind in a different direction, just then saying, oh, well, money's hard to come by. And that's just a totally different message. If you say things like, even if you don't have much, but you teach your kids that we're so grateful for what we have because we're so blessed with this. It doesn't have to be a lot. They
totally
don't
different
know.
language. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a lot.
Message you're giving them. You're setting them up.
That's a huge life lesson.
Yeah, because you're then setting them up to have a lot when they're older, because they won't have that poverty mindset. They won't have that lack mindset. It's all about how they view money. It doesn't matter how much you have. It's how you view it and what you say about it. So if you can pass that on to your kids, especially if you don't have much, you're going to change it for them when they're older. Otherwise, they're going to perpetuate. It's just going to be the same cycle again.
So you're older, you are an entrepreneur. Perhaps you haven't had the best of mindset influence on you growing up or as a teenager, or perhaps even in your marriage, but you are now an entrepreneur. Is it very important to have absolutely separate accounts from the beginning, your business account and your personal account?
Absolutely. It's really important to have them separated. It's also very important to pay yourself. It doesn't matter if you're only starting out and you can only pay yourself 20 euros a week or 10 euros a week. You see, if you get into the habit you need to create these habits before the money comes in, because the money won't come until you get the habits right. And if you can create these habits before your business makes money, or before you get your big pay increase, then when the money comes in, you know what to do with it. Because oftentimes for a lot of people, whether it's wages or business, the money comes in, but they struggle to keep it. They'll tell you a week later, I can't make it stretch. I don't know where it went. And
Yes.
often for women, we'll struggle to keep the money. And that's just because we're not tracking it. It's what we believe about it. But if you can set that up when you start your business before the money comes in, then when the money comes in, you'll already have your good habits in place.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very important. And what about planning for the future? I mean, with these coaching courses, do you deal with the future as a particular issue, or do you get them to focus on the now and tracking the finances in the now rather than thinking ahead too much?
Well, what I focus on is creating good habits now. So we're reprogramming the past. You're getting rid of the old habits, the bad habits. We're changing them to new habits. And then we look at how you manage your money. But the future, you're setting yourself up for the future by creating these good habits. Really. Yeah.
So it is very much a day-by-day approach, in your opinion.
Yes, it's one step at a time. Absolutely.
One step at a time.
There's no magic bullet. There's no quick fix. You're undoing a lot of work to create new work, to create new habits, and it is new work, but it's also fascinating because the stuff, when you start digging into your money story, it's amazing the stuff that comes back to you, and the things that you discover about yourself. It's amazing. There's so many layers to it, and the things that you'll find out about yourself, the breakthroughs you have, they're absolutely fascinating. This work is absolutely very rewarding because you're working on your money. If you're working on your money story, you're not going to not have money by working on this stuff, you know.
Do you find that there's a need for those women to look further into, for example, pension plans, look at perhaps using a different bank for their personal account rather than the one they're using for their business account? Should they have those in the same bank, or is it better? Does it help with the mindset to have, okay, I'm going to pay myself this week. My account is Bank of Ireland. I'm going to pay myself, but my personal account is in AIB, so I have to make that transfer. Or do little things like that even help, having the personal account in a different institution, for example? Or
not particularly. I don't find I don't deal with pensions or anything like that, but it doesn't really matter where you have your account. It's creating the habits of having these accounts set up, and to have an account to pay yourself, to have an account for your investments, to have an account for your pension, to have an account for your freedom, your holiday fund. It's more about setting up your accounts, and most of us already have these accounts, you know. And it's not to say that you'd run out and open a load of bank accounts. It's not that, but it's more getting into the habit of, okay, I'm going to track my money. This is my money, and this is how I'm going to divide it up after I've paid everything, as in my essential stuff. And that way, if you were only doing it on a piece of paper and then putting it into, a couple of accounts, it's tracking the money. It's just knowing where it's going.
Yeah. So that's the key word here: track the money, and track it day by day.
Yeah, but it's awareness. All of this stuff is, the self-worth, the awareness of what's actually happening to you and to your money. And
that leads to the better decision making, and hopefully that will lead also to better education, of yourself and the people around you and your kids and what have you. You just have that awareness, and that it's not a bad thing to be focusing on money. We were taught this, but it's not a bad thing. Of course,
it's actually the opposite. It's a good thing to be focusing on money, because when you're focusing on money, you're in control of your money. When you're not focusing on your money and you're not opening your letters, and I've done this years ago, the bank statements would come through, I'd fling them straight into the fire because I'd know, or the bills or those notices, and because I know what they were going to say. So I dug my head into the sand, and sure, we all know that this stuff doesn't go away.
Yes, yeah.
And I just
That
hit a wall
paralyzing
then.
fear that doesn't allow you to open the letter because you know you can't face what's in it. Or whereas in fact, if you can put a bubble around you and say, right, okay, it's only words on paper. I know what it's going to say anyway. I have got to communicate with these people because a lot of the time, isn't it a case of because we've heard nothing from you is what they'll write back because there has been no communication.
Nobody
Whereas if
likes
you
to
can
do
go to them and say, look, I can pay a fiver a month, or I can pay 20 quid a month, or, if you have the communication going with these institutions, they're happy then. They're pretty happy.
Well, you see, by doing that, then you're in control. You've made a
Yes.
decision, you've made a choice. Nobody likes to be ignored. And this stuff doesn't go away. And all that happens is you get yourself into trouble and you go deeper, deeper. And the deeper you go down, then the more you blame yourself. And you're in
Yes.
this cycle of, oh my gosh, I'm so bad with money. I'm useless. Look what I've done. And we love to beat ourselves up because our minds are designed, we'll always go to the worst case scenario first. And it's all about asking better questions. How can I deal with this? Because when you start, our brains love questions. When you start to ask your mind, you know what questions, say, for example, what I mean by this is you lose your keys or you lose your phone, your mobile phone, and you need to leave. And you go around the house going, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Where's my phone? Or where's my keys? Where's my keys? All of a sudden, you remember where they are and you find them. They'll always turn up. Well, 99.9% of the time, it'll come back to you. Oh, I was in the bathroom or I was in the bedroom or, I put them down somewhere and you get them. So when you start asking your mind questions, our mind is designed to start looking for answers. So if you say, okay, I have a situation here. I've created this situation. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to get out of this situation, or how am I going to pay back this money, or whatever it is? Your brain will start coming up with ideas. You'll start coming up with solutions.
Yes.
Set up a
That's
payment
very
plan,
true.
get a second job, whatever it is. But when you sit there telling yourself how bad you are for creating this situation, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to go spiraling more and more. You're going to ignore things, and then when the letters come in and you ignore them, sure, it's another excuse to beat yourself up.
Yeah.
And we just get into this spiral.
Yes,
So
exactly.
ask better questions. Start working on solutions, and your brain will come up with ideas.
And just talk to us a little bit about the ways in which people can access these courses that you run. Can they pay up front? Can they do payment plans? Is there flexibility because I'm sure there'll be lots of women out there listening to you now and they're saying, gosh, it's probably a really expensive course. How can I possibly budget for this or track money, put it aside for this? I'd love to do this course. What would you say to them now?
So yes, there is payment. I always do a payment plan to kind of support people. There is the one-to-one coaching, group coaching is, I hate words like affordable, but yes, it can make it more manageable for people. So yeah, I want women to be financially independent. Obviously I teach them how to increase prices and create more money. So I want them to be empowered around their money as well.
So there are ways to access the course because we mustn't take our eye off the ball here as well. One of the things you teach as well, of course, is learning how to price your service properly. So of course you can't knock your prices down too much because you have a very valuable service that you're offering. But that is also something that they will learn. So it's extremely, the content in these courses is just, it's going to change their lives. It's going to change the way they do business.
Totally. It's life-changing. Absolutely. This work, it's changed my life. So I've lived it. You know what I mean? It is life-changing. And when you do that inner work, it makes such a difference. And of course, I do teach people how to increase their prices, how to go to your boss and ask for a raise, and not just a little tiny raise, to be charging. For me, it's charge what you're worth. That's kind of my tagline. It's really that it's time for women to actually charge what we're worth.
And do you also go into how to be direct with an employer, because a lot of women, when they're faced with a situation, go into very indirect language. I was
Yes,
just wondering if maybe we could have a talk about, or, I'm just wondering if if I could be considered for, instead of saying, this is what I want, and this is what I'd like to do, and these are my goals. And actually saying that to a boss at times is something women are afraid to do. So direct language.
absolutely. I help with checklists and scripts so that you know what to say, because when you go say and talk to your boss, or people do it on discovery calls all the time, that we start to panic that the person, we're losing the sale, or they're backtracking, and we start discounting. Or you go into the office to ask your boss for a raise, and you go in saying, I'm asking for, we'll just say 20% off the, just as an example. And then in your head, you're going, oh, well, maybe I'll only ask for 10%. And by the time you actually open your mouth, you're going, but I would have maybe get a 2% raise if it's okay, and if you don't mind.
I know.
And they're just going to shut you down straight away. You'd be like,
Of course, because
sorry,
they
it's the
see
wrong
the
time.
weakness, they see the vulnerability. They see the
The power.
vulnerability in you then, because you haven't got that language, and you haven't got the belief.
Yes, it is. It's all about the self-belief. If you have that self-belief, then you won't have a problem. You'll know your own worth, and going in to tell your boss won't be a problem. And you'll find that a lot of women will then decide, do you know what, I'm not actually valued here. Once you start to value yourself, they go look for totally different jobs that pay a lot more, because a pay rise is actually, they realize a pay rise isn't going to cut it in that job when you're undervalued. It's time to change the whole situation.
Denise, you're a star. This is an absolutely wonderful service that you provide, and you can come about it from so many different angles. Your previous career factoring in so well into this, and it's a perfect fit, because it's all about looking at your self-worth and believing in yourself, as you say, and learning how to communicate what you want, and then not becoming vulnerable in the eyes of other people. And this is so important, and learning how to protect yourself and remove the fears. I mean, it's all in there, folks. So have a look at Denise's website. It's denisemcgarry.com, and there are wonderful programs there. I'm just so delighted that you came on the show today. You're a wonder. Thank you so much. And I'll be on to you fairly soon, I can tell you. For sure I will. Denise, thank you so much for coming on Business Block. It was a joy to have you on.
Oh, it was a pleasure, Miriam. I love it. Anything that empowers women, and sure, you're so easy to talk to. This was lovely. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you, everybody. Listen, join us next Monday. Mondays, we have Women's Inspire Network members on. Samantha Kelly is the tweeting goddess. This is a network that she created about 5 or 6 years ago, and it attracts exactly this type of professional, just like Denise McGarry. And they are very on the button with what they know, and they have plans that they can put forward, and you benefit directly from these groups. It's a top-down, there to help you, very supportive group. Have a look at it. WIN, Women's Inspire Network. So glad to have had you on, Denise. Thank you so much indeed.